Rev up your engines!
Now here's something I would have never expected. Mercedes Benz now updated their famous Mercedes Benz logo to promote social distancing with a virus. If you look at the picture, you'll see that it's no longer big circle with the three arms coming in it. Used to steal them for peace symbols in the 60s and wear them around their neck. A lot of people with Mercedes lost their front emblems because they used to stick up at the top. Kids would break them up and wear them for peace medals. But now they're smaller inside and the circle's bigger around. So it's promoting social distancing. So when you see the Mercedes logo, you're going to think, oh, you got to stay far away from people because now it's further away from the circle. I don't know about that. All I know is the people that generally drive Mercedes Benzes are rude. They pull in front of you. They cut off. They speed. I don't think putting the emblem a little bit different is going to make any change. They're all jumping on the bandwagon now and their logo, distance. Maybe it's more for the Mercedes drivers and people are like, boy, stay away from those people. They don't know how to drive. Well, it's now official. Ford is teaming up with General Electric to build 50,000 ventilators. Not General Motors, but General Electric. Ford and General Electric are working together. Now, production begins the week of April 20th. So it's still a little bit of way away. And they see by July the 4th that they're going to have 50,000 ventilators produced. That's what they're goal is. They're going to be built at a retooled Ford plant in Ypsilanti, Michigan that had been shut down. They're opening it up now and they're going to make ventilators in it. So in the next 100 days, they say they're going to make 50,000 ventilators. 500 United Auto workers are going to make them, working 24 hours a day. They plan on having the first 1,500 ventilators done by the end of April. And they're also going to make different kinds. So they can be built faster and they can use them in certain areas and not have all the bells and whistles that the really expensive one has. They can make lower cost, higher volume ones that don't need a battery backup, that all they need is oxygen, nothing else. Then they can make ones that need oxygen and electric power. And then they can make ones that need oxygen, air, and electric power. So they're going to whip them out in various types so they can make them faster and get them to areas that are needed. All they need is oxygen, and they don't need a battery backup for the lower cost ones. Hey, they can whip those things out faster. Just like in World War II, they whipped those Jeeps out really fast. They figured the average lifespan was only going to be a few weeks, so made them a lot cheaper, realized that, hey, they don't have to last for 10 years. They're going in a war zone, and a lot of them are going to be blown up. So this is the same kind of idea. We'll see how fast they can get these things up and running. Sparkling Claw says, what are the pros and cons of a straight 8-cylinder engine instead of a V8 engine? All right, my grandfather was also a mechanic, actually owned a straight 8 Cadillac. He bought it after World War II when the price of gas went up. They got horrendous gas mileage, but they were big, heavy, strong cars. And this Cadillac had straight 8 cylinders in a row. And it was made so strong that he used to push cars with it into the garage when they were broken using the fender, not the bumper, the fender. And the fender was so thick that it wouldn't bend. It would actually push it. Straight 8s, of course, being straight, take up a lot of space. If you know anything about those really old cars, they had really long fronts because they had to fit that engine in. A V8 engine fits in a smaller space. That's one of the reasons Henry Ford was the first real mass producer of V8 engines that had a lot of power and fit in a small space. He claimed it would fit in the same space as a 4-cylinder engine the way he designed it. A V8 engine, the V configuration, have more torque, so they have more acceleration. And you can generally soup them up to put up a lot more horsepower than a straight 8. But a lot of it has to do with size and weight, but it's also power. You're not going to see any straight 8s being made anytime in the near future, really. Moman says, Scotty, what do you think of a 2003 Boxster S with about 170,000 miles? I think that is probably the world's biggest money pit to be. Now, I got a customer that's got that same exact car. He bought it brand new, and he had about 150,000 miles, and he liked the car from the beginning. But now that it had 150,000, he brought it to me and said, Scotty, here, go over it. And I went over it. I told him the work that it needed, and truthfully, it needed about $15,000, $20,000 of work to get it up to snuff, because everything on it was breaking, and the designs of those things, the engine's in the middle, you practically got to pull the engine out to do any kind of serious work on it. They are just endless money pits. But they're beautiful looking cars. So if you're looking for a lawn ornament that you're going to park on your lawn and polish it and impress the neighbors with the shiny lawn ornament, go right ahead. You can pick those up dirt cheap. They're worth nothing. But for something you could actually drive down the road, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Manual C98 says, Scotty, I got a check engine light on my '01 Nissan Maxima, 20th anniversary edition. Car's 116,000 miles. It throws code PO430, catalytic efficiency threshold, bank 2. Would I need to replace the catalytic converter? Now here is the thing. Those are very complex systems. The oxygen sensors measure how much residual oxygen is in the exhaust system. And it measures it before the cat and after the cat to see how efficient the cat is. Lots of problems can trip that code. It can be inefficient because the engine's got a vacuum leak. Fuel injectors are running lean. The catalytic converter's bad. The oxygen sensors are bad. There are a zillion things that can do that. Now, unfortunately, the only way to really check it out without wild guessing is to hire a mechanic like me who has high-level scan tools, a freeze-frame oscilloscope, and starts analyzing the system. And yes, it can get expensive. If you want the most logical guess on that system, change the catalytic converter oxygen sensor, the one that's after the catalytic converter on bank 2. Pray it's just that. Often it is with that particular code. I fixed a lot of them. If not, from my experience with Nissans, with that mileage and that age, usually means the catalytic converter is bad. But you don't want to guess with an expensive part like that. But you could just guess with the oxygen sensors. They don't cost that much. Try the one on bank 2 after the cat. You might get lucky and it might fix it. Other than that, you really got to pay a mechanic. It's complex stuff and it can get really, really involved. And sometimes it can be numerous things. It can be, say, the engine's running lean. Well, then what it does is it burns out the cat and it can burn out the oxygen sensor too. And then you might have to replace all three. So try the sensor first. Pray that fixes it. But if it runs okay, I've had people drive them years that way. Foo Fighter 10 says, Scotty, what do you think of the GM Iron Duke engine that ran from 77 to 1993? You know, they were solid motors, real solid motors. Now, they didn't put out that much horsepower. They went to iron because they had all that fiasco with the Chevy Vegas that were the nuttiest design on earth. They had cast aluminum blocks, and rather than sleeve them down with stainless steel inside for the pistons, they just spray coated them, which wore out, and then they all burnt oil like mad. But at the same time, those stupid aluminum block Vegas, they had cast iron heads that weighed a ton. A really stupid design. But GM's done a lot of dumb stuff in their times, right? But when they came over the Iron Duke to replace them, they were solid, reliable engines, not particularly great on gas mileage. They're relatively heavy engines. But, you know, the post office used them. Mercury boats used them. If you want a reliable engine that could last a while, they didn't put out all that much horsepower, but they could last. You know, they don't make them anymore because they're more into making them cheaper and getting higher gas mileage. But for something that lasted, they were good engines. Minato JP says, my Nissan 350Z, 2006, made in Japan. When I press the window button to go all the way up auto mode, button does a click sound. It's going up. When it reaches the top, it bounces down. Why is it doing that? The driver's window's okay. Only a passenger does that. When I push the button gently and just hold it, it goes up normally. What's happening is your auto stop is broken. They're set so that when they go up, they're supposed to hit the top, and then the sensor in the system knows it's the top and shuts it off, and yours isn't, and it's bumping it back down again. From my experience with those, it is the motor assembly on the side that's breaking down that's bad. All the sensors and stuff are generally built into there. You're probably going to need a new motor on that side, or rather than use the auto feature, just go up slowly yourself and then let go. A lot of my customers had ones like that, and they just do it manually, and then it wouldn't come bouncing back down again. It's just what happens as they age. It's 2006, 14 years old. Just use your fingers instead of the auto one, unless you want to spend a bunch of money buying a motor assembly. And then sometimes even the circuit board, if it's got a separate circuit board, that can be going out too. So me, I just use the button manually rather than mess with that. Now here's one even I couldn't have made up. A Washington State man was arrested while he was supposedly teaching his dog how to drive his old junky Buick 100 miles an hour. The man was riding shotgun and the dog was at the steering wheel. Police were on a high-speed chase after him while the dog was behind the wheel and he was supposedly helping a dog steer. What goes on in the mind of people, this guy was 51 years old. Kind of makes me wonder, how did he get to be even 51 years old doing such stupid things? Now, no surprise, the man was arrested on suspicion of DUI, reckless driving, and hit and run, and eluding the police. I mean, it takes all kinds in this world, but hopefully they'll lock him up for a while, and he won't come out and let his dog drive his old Buick anymore.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.